The research vessel Harmony drifted silently in Earth's orbit. Inside, beings from across the galaxy watched the blue-green planet with curious eyes. This was a historic moment. First contact with yet another intelligent species. Senior xenologist Tarek pressed his six-fingered hand against the viewing glass. His silver skin reflected the Earth's glow as he dictated notes into his personal device. Subject planet shows significant water coverage. Atmosphere composition suitable for carbon-based life. Technology level: early space age. Assessment: primitive but developing at notable speed. Science Officer Vela floated beside him, her four eyes blinking in sequence as she processed the data streams from the planet below. They've achieved nuclear fission and basic space travel, she noted, but their energy systems remain inefficient. They still burn fossil fuels. Fascinating that they've survived this long, Tarek replied. Most species destroy themselves at this development stage. Captain Han entered the observation deck. Unlike his colleagues, Han had studied human culture extensively during their approach. His uniform bore the gold insignia of the diplomatic corps, 12 stars representing the founding races of the Galactic Confederation. Their transmissions are most curious, Han said, joining his colleagues at the viewport. They broadcast stories constantly, tales of heroes, villains, and wars. Tarek turned from the window. Primitive aggression narratives. We've seen this before. Perhaps, Han said thoughtfully. But these humans have unusually detailed battle tactics in their entertainment. Their mythology speaks of warrior gods and world-ending conflicts. Vela tilted her head. All young species create violent fantasies. It helps process their evolutionary aggression. These seem different, Han insisted. Their oldest stories mention threats from beyond the stars. Some describe beings that match historical accounts of the Nextvery. Tarek laughed. The Nextvery? Those are just old stories to frighten children. No evidence of them has ever been found. Perhaps, Han said, but isn't it odd that a planet this isolated would have such legends? Coincidence? Tarek dismissed with a wave. The Council has already approved contact. They're deemed harmless. 3 weeks later, the first official delegation landed on Earth. The humans had been prepared through gradually increasing signals and communications. Still, the arrival of 7 different alien species in Washington, D.C. created global shock and celebration. The meeting took place in the United Nations building. Representatives from all Earth nations gathered to meet the visitors. The Confederation team explained the basics. Yes, intelligent life was common. Yes, faster than light travel was possible. And yes, Earth could join the galactic community. The Confederation includes 37 member species, explained Diplomat Min. We share knowledge, culture, and resources. We have eliminated war and scarcity. The human representatives asked countless questions. Some were practical. What technologies will you share? Others were worried. Do you have weapons? And some were simply curious. What do your home worlds look like? After 3 months of negotiations, the Confederation offered Earth observer status. This meant humans could send representatives to Confederation meetings but couldn't vote. They would receive basic technology upgrades, but nothing military-related. Trade would be limited and supervised. This is standard for new species, Min explained to the Earth delegation. Full membership requires cultural advancement. Your tendency toward conflict is concerning. Ambassador Park from Korea stood to address the alien representatives. She was small compared to most of the visitors, but her voice carried strength. We accept your offer with gratitude, she said. Humanity is eager to join the stars, but we would offer a word of caution from our own history. The Confederation representatives leaned forward, surprised by this unexpected addition. Our oldest stories tell of threats from beyond Earth, Park continued. Beings that consumed worlds. We call them different names in different cultures. Titans, Rakshasa, Wendigo. But the descriptions are similar. They feed on life and fear. Tarek shifted uncomfortably. Every developing species has myths of monsters. Park smiled slightly. Perhaps, but consider why such stories exist. We hope our alliance brings peace, but remember that not all ancient threats are merely legends. The room fell silent. Most Confederation representatives dismissed her words as primitive superstition, but Captain Han felt a chill along his spine. Later, aboard the Harmony Asterisk, Han reviewed human mythology in the ship's database. The stories were remarkably consistent across isolated cultures. Tales of world-devouring entities that came from the stars. Computer, compare these descriptions to historical accounts of the Nextvery, he requested. The computer displayed side-by-side comparisons. The similarities were striking. Both described tentacled beings with multiple mouths. Both mentioned ships that blotted out the stars. Both told of worlds stripped of life. Why would humans know these details? Han whispered to himself. Meanwhile, Earth began its integration process. Humans were granted access to basic medical upgrades and clean energy technology. Confederation representatives established an embassy in Geneva. Human representatives were welcome to observe Confederation proceedings on the capital world of Harmonex. What surprised the Confederation most was humanity's focus. While they eagerly absorbed new science and cultural exchanges, Earth's nations continued funding their militaries. When questioned, they simply stated it was tradition and precautionary. Captain Han noticed something else. Humans were learning much faster than predicted. They asked insightful questions about ship designs and defensive systems. They studied Confederation star charts with particular interest in border regions, and they continued building their own ships despite having access to limited Confederation transport. He filed his concerns with the Council, but they were dismissed. All new species show curiosity, he was told. They'll mature as they integrate. 6 months after first contact, deep space monitoring stations detected unusual energy patterns at the galaxy's edge. The signals were classified and forgotten. Just another cosmic anomaly in a vast universe. But in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, human scientists compared these signals to ancient cave paintings from Australia. The patterns matched perfectly. 20 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation as an observer. The relationship had been beneficial but strained at times. Humans absorbed new technologies quickly but frustrated Confederation officials with their continued military development. Despite repeated requests to focus on peaceful endeavors, Earth maintained and expanded its defense forces. Diplomat Jun Li stood before the Emergency Confederation Council on Harmonex. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystal ceiling and floating platforms, held representatives from all 37 member species. Usually calm and methodical, Li's face showed unusual tension today. The colony at Rigel has gone silent, he announced, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. All communication ceased 18 hours ago. No distress signals, no automated warnings, just silence. High Counselor Zeta, whose species had led the Confederation for 3 centuries, leaned forward. Her translucent skin pulsed with concerned colors. "This is concerning, but not necessarily cause for alarm," she said. "Communications failures happen." Li shook his head. "This is the 7th outpost to go silent this month, following the same pattern. First, communications drop. Then all ships in the area disappear." The council chamber erupted in worried conversations. Species that rarely agreed on anything shared frightened glances. Zeta raised her 4 arms, calling for order. "We have no evidence of hostile action," she insisted. "It could be a natural phenomenon, a communications virus. Many explanations exist." The massive doors at the chamber's end swung open. Admiral Su Kim entered, her Confederation uniform adorned with both alien and human insignia. Unlike Li's diplomatic appearance, Kim carried herself with unmistakable military bearing. 20 years in the Confederation hadn't softened her posture or her direct approach. "We've identified the threat," Kim announced without preamble. She activated a small device on her wrist. The center of the chamber filled with a massive hologram. It showed strange, organic-looking vessels, massive structures that seemed part machine, part living creature. Their surfaces writhed with tentacle-like appendages, and their centers glowed with sickly green light. "The next very are real," Kim stated flatly, "just as humanity's historical records suggested, just as we warned you 20 years ago." The chamber fell completely silent. Zeta's skin turned pale. "Impossible," she finally said. "The next very are myths, stories to frighten children. There has never been evidence." "There is evidence now," Kim interrupted, enlarging one section of the hologram. The image showed a smaller Confederation research vessel being enveloped by tendrils from the larger ship. This footage was recovered from an emergency beacon near the Proxima colony. "The next very are consuming your worlds, just as they attempted to consume Earth thousands of years ago." A representative from the Muldari species stood. "If this threat is real, why didn't you share this information sooner?" "We tried," Kim said simply. "For 20 years, we've brought historical accounts, archaeological evidence, and genetic memories. Your scientists dismissed them as primitive superstitions." She manipulated her device again. The hologram changed, now showing a different image that made the council gasp collectively. It displayed hundreds of warships, sleek, powerful vessels with weapon systems far beyond what humans had been permitted to develop. "Humanity has been preparing," Kim said quietly. "Despite your restrictions and against your regulations, we built these ships in hidden facilities beneath our moon and in the asteroid belt. We've been training crews and developing weapons specifically designed to combat the threat we knew would eventually return." "This is a violation of your observer status," Zeta exclaimed. "Unauthorized military development is forbidden." "Yes," Kim agreed without apology. "We broke your rules to save your lives. Now we request formal permission to deploy our defensive forces throughout Confederation space. If we don't act immediately, the Confederation will fall." The chamber erupted again. Some representatives demanded human ships be confiscated. Others called for immediate military support. A few suggested surrender to these unknown entities. Lee stepped forward again. "The choice is simple. Accept our help or face extinction. The next varied don't negotiate. They consume. They've done it before, across many galaxies. The ancient races knew them. Only a few survivors reached Earth thousands of years ago, bringing warnings that became our myths." Zeta's skin rippled with conflicting colors. "The Council needs time to deliberate. This decision cannot be rushed." At that moment, a young aide rushed into the chamber, bypassing security protocols. He whispered urgently to Zeta. Her colors drained completely. "The defensive stations at the Arcturus boundary have gone dark," she announced, her voice shaking. "Long-range sensors detect multiple large objects entering the inner systems." The chamber fell silent once more. "How long?" Kim asked. 3 days until they reach inhabited worlds," Zeta replied. "Then you have 3 minutes to decide," Kim stated. "Our fleet is ready to deploy. Either authorize our assistance, or we'll return to Earth to make our stand alone." The Council looked at each other. Species that had never faced true war in generations now confronted extinction. Zeta called for an immediate vote. The authorization passed unanimously. "Deploy your ships, Admiral," Zeta said formally. "The Confederation grants Earth full military authorization effective immediately." Kim nodded and pressed a sequence on her wrist device. Throughout the solar system, hidden hangar doors opened. Ships that had been built and trained in secret emerged from their concealment. Crews who had prepared for this day their entire lives moved to battle stations. "Our main fleet will deploy to protect the core worlds," Kim explained. "Secondary forces will attempt to evacuate threatened colonies. We've developed specific tactical responses based on ancient records." "Will it be enough?" asked a council member. Lee and Kim exchanged glances. "We will fight," Lee said simply. "Humanity has prepared for this moment since before we joined the stars. It's why we never abandoned our military traditions despite your encouragement." As they spoke, long-range scanners detected the first Nextferry scout ships entering the inner defense perimeter. The ancient enemy had returned, and humanity's long preparation would finally be tested. The human warship Thermopylae*, tore through the fabric of space, emerging from jump space in a flash of blue light. 50 more ships followed, forming a perfect arrow formation. Their dark hulls gleamed with weapons the Confederation had never seen before. Each ship bore the name of an ancient Earth battle or warrior. Inside the lead ship, Admiral Ta Sung stood calmly at the center of the bridge. Unlike Confederation vessels with their comfortable seating and peaceful aesthetics, the Thermopylae's command center was built for war. Screens showed the tactical situation from all angles. Crew members worked with quiet efficiency at their stations. "Jump complete, Admiral," reported the navigation officer. "All ships accounted for." Sung nodded once, his eyes fixed on the main display. It showed the Andromeda colony, a Confederation settlement of 2 million beings. 5 massive Nextferry ships surrounded the planet like hungry predators. Their organic-looking hulls pulsed with sickly green light. Already, tendrils extended toward the planet's surface. "Life signs on the colony?" Sung asked. "Still detecting approximately 1.8 million, replied the sensor officer. The Nextferry appear to be setting up harvesting patterns. Sung's face remained impassive, but his eyes hardened. He had studied the ancient records. He knew what harvesting meant. Commander Mai Choi, his executive officer, approached with a data tablet. Her uniform was crisp, her expression professional despite the horror on the screens. "Sir, tactical analysis complete," she reported. "We count 15 Nextferry vessels in total, 5 capital ships and 10 escorts. We're outnumbered 3-1. Several Confederation liaison officers on the bridge shifted uncomfortably. They had never seen combat before joining the human vessels. The odds seemed impossible. Sung's lips curved in a slight smile. "Then it's an even fight." Choi returned the smile, understanding the reference to ancient military history. "Deploy flanking pattern Delta," Sung ordered. "All ships to assume combat formation. Engage on my mark." The human fleet split into 3 groups with practiced precision. While one group approached directly, drawing the attention of the Nextferry ships, 2 smaller groups curved wide to either side. "They're taking the bait," Choi noted as several Nextferry vessels moved to intercept the main human force. "They lack imagination," Sung replied. "According to the ancient records, they rely on overwhelming force rather than tactics." A Confederation liaison officer named Silo approached nervously. "Admiral, my analysis suggests retreat would be wiser. We could return with more ships. By then, everyone on that planet will be dead," Sung said simply. "Humanity doesn't abandon allies." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Primary targets are the harvester tendrils. Secondary targets are propulsion systems, weapons-free, for Earth and the Confederation." The human ships accelerated suddenly, moving in patterns that seemed chaotic to observers, but followed precision plans developed from Earth's military history. The flanking groups struck the Nextferry from unexpected angles, targeting the tendrils reaching toward the planet. On the main screen, blue flashes marked human weapon impacts. The Nextferry responded, their ships releasing swarms of smaller attack craft. As predicted, Sung noted, "Execute countermeasure Salamis." The human fleet suddenly released thousands of small drones, tiny automated weapons platforms that engaged the Nextferry swarm. Meanwhile, the larger human ships continued their attack on the main vessels. "Their organic hulls are vulnerable to our phase cannons," Choi reported, damage registering on 3 primary targets. For 4 hours, the battle raged around Andromeda colony. Human ships moved with unexpected agility, never staying still long enough for the larger Nextferry weapons to lock on. When a human vessel took damage, others would provide covering fire while it retreated to safety. The Confederation officers watched in amazement. Their species had evolved beyond warfare, focusing on cooperation and peace. What they witnessed now was something from their distant evolutionary past, organized violence executed with terrifying efficiency. Target Alpha is breaking formation, reported the tactical officer. Its harvesting tendrils have been severed. One by one, the Nextferry ships began to withdraw. Their swarm craft were decimated by the human drones. 3 of their capital ships showed significant damage. For the first time in known history, the Nextferry retreated from prey. When the last enemy ship jumped to safety, a cheer erupted across the bridge. Sung allowed it for a moment before raising his hand for silence. "Begin rescue operations," he ordered. "Medical ships to the surface. Engineering teams to repair planetary defenses." Later, as human crews helped the shocked colonists, a message arrived from Harmonex. The Confederation Council requested Admiral Sung's presence immediately. 3 days later, Sung stood beside Defense Minister Ju Jin as she addressed the full Confederation Council. The massive chamber was filled beyond capacity, with representatives from all member worlds demanding answers. "How did you defeat them?" High Counselor Zeta asked, her skin showing colors of amazement and confusion. "No one has ever survived a Nextferry harvest." Minister Jin stepped forward. She wore a formal diplomatic uniform, but her posture revealed her military background. "What you witnessed is why humanity never abandoned its military traditions," she explained. "While the Confederation embraced peace, a noble goal, humanity remembered war." "But why?" asked a representative from a species that had known peace for 50,000 years. "Why maintain such violent knowledge?" "Because our myths weren't just stories," Jin said simply. "They were history and warnings." She activated a holographic display showing ancient Earth cave paintings alongside modern images of the Nextferry ships. The similarities were unmistakable. "Survivors reached Earth thousands of years ago," Jin continued. "Their descendants passed down warnings through myths and legends. Stories of world eaters and sky demons exist in every human culture. Every human child learns of the art of war in some form. We've been preparing for this moment since before we discovered fire." The council chamber fell silent. "The Nextferry have consumed thousands of worlds," Jin said. "They target and eliminate warrior species first, because those are the only ones that can resist them. They nearly succeeded in wiping out all resistance in this galaxy long ago." "Except humans," Zeta noted. "Except humans," Jin agreed. "Our world was isolated, primitive, not worth their attention. So we survived and remembered, even when we forgot why we remembered." From the back of the chamber, Admiral Sung watched the Confederation representatives process this information. They had dismissed humans as primitive because they maintained military traditions. Now those same traditions might save the galaxy. "The battle at Andromeda Colony was just the beginning," Jin warned. "The Nextferry will return with greater numbers. But now, they know we can hurt them. And for predators like them, that changes everything." Sunshine bathed the ancient Roman Colosseum. The stone structure had stood for nearly 3,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of empires. Now it served a new purpose. In the central arena, 200 alien officers from across the Galactic Confederation stood in neat rows, watching their human instructor with a mixture of confusion and respect. Commander Jadu paced before them, his military uniform bearing both Earth Defense Force and Confederation insignia. Behind him, large screens displayed images of ancient human battles alongside recent engagements with the Nextferry. "Your species evolved without serious predators," Du explained, his voice carrying across the historic space. "Most Confederation worlds developed peaceful, cooperative societies because survival didn't require fighting." He paused, picking up an ancient Roman gladius sword from a display table. The metal caught the sunlight. "Humans evolved differently," he continued. "We were both predator and prey. We fought for food, territory, and survival. Then we fought each other for thousands of years. All that conflict refined our understanding of warfare." Several Confederation officers shifted uncomfortably. Their species had long ago rejected violence as primitive. Now they found themselves needing these primitive skills. The Nexvari have won for millennia because no one fought back effectively, Du said. They systematically eliminated warrior species across the galaxy. The historical records your scientists dismissed as myths actually documented their campaigns. He pointed to a section of the Colosseum stands where human instructors worked with small groups of aliens. They practiced with simple training weapons and studied tactical displays. Humanity survived because our world was isolated and considered too primitive. Du continued, "We're the last descendants of the warrior lineage, and now we'll teach you." A tall, insect-like officer raised an appendage. "Commander, we have superior technology. Can we not simply outbuild them?" Du shook his head. "Technology without tactical knowledge is useless. The Nexvari adapt quickly. They've already adjusted to our basic maneuvers. We must be unpredictable, creative." He turned to the training area. "Today you'll learn ancient human battle formations. These strategies were developed thousands of years ago, but the principles remain effective in space combat." The training continued for weeks. Confederation officers learned human military history, tactical thinking, and combat psychology. Many struggled with the concepts. Their species had evolved past aggression, making the warrior mindset difficult to adopt. Yet they learned because they had to. Reports from the front lines showed the Nexvari pushing deeper into Confederation space. 15 worlds had fallen. Billions of lives were lost. Only human-led defense forces had achieved any success. 3 months into the training program, the first mixed human-alien combat units deployed to the front. Their performance exceeded expectations. Confederation technical expertise combined with human tactical knowledge created effective fighting forces. Across the galaxy, the tide slowly turned. At first, human ships simply slowed the Nexvari advance. Then they began holding key positions. Finally, the first counter-offensives launched. Operation Marathon became the turning point. Named after an ancient Earth battle where outnumbered Greeks defeated a Persian invasion. The operation targeted 3 key systems near the Confederation core worlds. Human commanders led mixed crews in coordinated assaults that confused and divided Nexvari forces. For the first time in known history, the Nexvari lost territory they had claimed. In a secure command center beneath the Himalayan mountains, General Sun Moon reviewed holographic battle plans with her coalition staff. The room buzzed with activity as officers from 12 species worked together. Tactical displays showed fleet positions across 3 star systems. "The Nexvari are adapting," Moon said, pointing to movement patterns on the main display. "They've begun to anticipate our direct assault strategies." A Confederation intelligence officer named Pilax nodded. "They're learning from each encounter, implementing countermeasures to our standard attack formations." Moon smiled slightly. "Good. They're doing exactly what I expected." She manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on a particular star system. "The Nexvari now expect us to attack along these routes." Her hand traced the obvious approach vectors to a heavily defended Nexvari position. "Instead, we'll use the ancient flanking strategy my ancestors employed at Inchin," Moon continued, highlighting a complex approach through a nearby asteroid field. "We'll draw their attention with a small force here, while our main fleet circles through these gravity wells to strike from behind." Pilax looked confused. "Your personal ancestors, General." Moon's smile widened. "In a way, all humans are descendants of warriors, officer. It's in our blood." She expanded the display to show the full battle plan. The Battle of Inchin was fought in Korea nearly 500 years ago. A commander named MacArthur used the tides and terrain to land forces behind enemy lines, cutting supply routes and forcing a retreat. "But space has no tides," another officer noted. "No, but it has gravity wells, radiation fields, and dust clouds," Moon replied. "The principles remain the same. Attack where they don't expect you." The operation launched 3 days later. As predicted, The Nexvari committed their forces to counter the obvious threat, leaving their flank exposed. When human ships emerged from the asteroid field directly behind their position, the Nexvari were caught in a devastating crossfire. Within hours, the system was secured. Similar victories followed across the front. The counteroffensive gained momentum as more Confederation species joined the effort, applying their new combat training. 6 months after the first human fleet engaged the Nexvari, combined forces liberated the 15th conquered world. The enemy that had never known defeat was now in retreat. In the aftermath of one battle, Pelax found General Moon studying ancient paper maps of Earth. "Why do you review these old battles?" he asked. "They happened so long ago on a single planet with primitive weapons." Moon looked up. "The weapons change, the ships change, the terrain changes, but the principles of warfare remain constant. Know your enemy, control the battlefield, strike where they're weak." She pointed to a map of an ancient naval battle. "My species nearly destroyed itself many times with these principles, but now those same hard-learned lessons might save the galaxy." Pelax considered this. "My species has known peace for 50,000 years. We forgot how to fight. Perhaps that was a mistake." "Peace is never a mistake," Moon said firmly. "Forgetting history is. There's value in both paths. The peaceful development your people mastered, and the warrior traditions mine preserved." She rolled up the ancient map. "Now we combine those strengths, and the Nexvari face something they've never encountered before, a galaxy that remembers how to fight back." The Nexvari Emperor Krath stood on the wide observation deck of the Hive mothership. His tall body was covered in a hard, shiny shell that reflected the dim red lights. For 10,000 years, his species had moved through the galaxy taking what they wanted. No one had ever stopped them. "The humans continue to push our forces back," reported War Director Vex. "We have lost control of 22 harvested worlds in the past month." "Impossible," Krath hissed, his mouthparts clicking with anger. "No species has ever beaten us. No one has ever pushed back our harvests." "These humans fight differently," Vex said. His voice was low and worried. "They use strange patterns. They don't react as expected. And worse, they have taught the weak species to fight too." Krath turned away, disgusted by this news. "They are just one small world. We have eaten 1,000 worlds. Bring our main fleet here. We will crush them with numbers." "Emperor," said a younger aide, approaching with nervous steps. "The human fleet has been found. They are approaching." "Show me their pathetic ships," Krath demanded. The aide touched controls on the wall. A large viewing screen opened, showing the space outside the massive Nexvari home fleet. "See for yourself, Emperor." Krath turned toward the screen. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. The blackness of space was gone. Where there should be stars and darkness, there were ships. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands. Their running lights created new patterns against the darkness, like artificial stars arranged in attack formation. The human fleet had literally blotted out the stars. "How many?" Krath whispered. "Our sensors cannot count them all," the aide admitted. "The humans have united the galaxy against us." The Nexvari had never known defeat. They had never needed retreat. They had no word for surrender. But looking at the endless field of enemy ships, Emperor Krath realized he might need to create one. On the command ship Odyssey *, Fleet Admiral Ji-Yoon stood on the bridge. The room was quiet despite hundreds of officers working at their stations. Screens showed the massive Nexvari fleet ahead, nearly 3,000 ships gathered around their home system. "All fleet elements report ready, Admiral," said Commander Pak. "The Confederation forces are in position. Strike groups await your command." Yoon nodded. She had planned this moment for decades. Since childhood, she had studied ancient battles, preparing for a war everyone else thought was myth. "Open fleet-wide channel," she ordered. When the communications officer nodded, Yoon spoke clearly. This is Fleet Admiral Yoon to all ships. For thousands of years, the Nexvari have consumed worlds and destroyed civilizations. They believed no one could stop them. Today, we prove them wrong. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing nearly 50,000 ships from Earth and the Confederation, arranged in formations named after ancient Earth battles. All ships, commence final approach. Remember Earth. The largest fleet ever assembled began to move. Human warships led each attack group. Confederation vessels followed, their advanced technology guided by human tactical knowledge. Special hunter groups targeted the organic tendrils the Nexvari used to feed on worlds. The Nexvari fought back fiercely. Their ships released clouds of smaller attack craft. Their main weapons could destroy human vessels with single hits, but they had never faced an enemy that understood warfare so deeply. The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships used patterns from ancient Earth conflicts, flanking maneuvers from naval battles, pincer movements from desert campaigns, and feigned retreats from steppe warfare. The Nexvari, who had always relied on overwhelming force, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. By the 4th day, 1/3 of the Nexvari fleet was destroyed. Another third was trapped between human attack groups. Emperor Krath, who had never considered defeat possible, sent a message requesting talks. They wished to discuss terms. Commander Pak reported, surprise evident in his voice. Admiral Yoon nodded. Inform them I will meet their representative on neutral ground, but our fleet remains in position. The peace negotiations took place on an abandoned space station at the edge of the system. Krath himself came, his massive form dwarfing the human delegation. For a species that had never negotiated, the talks were brief. The terms were simple. The Nexvari would surrender all harvested territories. They would be confined to their home system under permanent watch. Any ship leaving their territory would be destroyed immediately. You would let us live? Krath asked, his alien voice struggling with the concept of mercy. We're not like you, Yoon replied simply. We don't destroy entire species. 6 months later, representatives from all species gathered on Earth. The grand meeting took place in a rebuilt United Nations building in New York. Delegates from 43 species, including a reluctant Nexvari observer, came to sign the new Galactic Accord. Historian Min Ju presented the first copy of her new book, The Warrior Species: How Humanity Saved the Galaxy. The thick volume detailed the ancient warnings, humanity's preparation, and the final conflict. This book helps us remember, Ju explained to the assembly, both the danger of forgetting history and the cost of victory. Near the end of the ceremony, Admiral Yoon, now head of the new Galactic Defense Force, addressed the delegates. When we joined the stars, many thought humans primitive for keeping our military traditions, she said. We preserved the art of war through myth and legend, while the rest of the galaxy embraced pure peace. Today we understand that both approaches have value. Sometimes, to preserve peace, one must remember how to fight. She raised a glass, looking around at the diverse gathering of species. To the stars we once again share in harmony. Across the room, even the Nexvari representative reluctantly joined the toast. His species, better than any other, now understood the truth. The myths of humanity had been ignored, until their war fleet blotted out the stars. Outside the building, ordinary people from Earth and many Confederation worlds celebrated together. Children played games that no longer needed to include monsters from beyond the stars. The night sky above was peaceful once more, filled with points of light that were just stars, not the running lights of warships defending against ancient enemies. The galaxy would remember how close it came to destruction, and it would remember that humanity's stubborn preservation of its warrior past had saved civilization's future. The end.